Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Нашим захисникам тричі!
Слава, слава, слава!
Дякую, Савка Україна!
Thank you very much, Yulia. Thank you very much. One of our most talented singers here. You know, very, very lovely attitude. You know, sometimes artists can be a little bit full of themselves, but she's very humble. She's a lovely, lovely girl, lovely person. My friends, I would like to also mention something else. I just heard that we have somebody who's has a birthday today. That's right, 18 years, Alexei. Congratulations. Congratulations. A lovely gentleman who's giving leaflets to people. That's a very good job, actually, you know, so that people can have a reminder of when our rallies happen, of what we are doing here, and what we're doing it for. You know, very often we've had discussions with our opposition, with people who oppose us. They do exist, in fact, they do, but they don't like speaking too much. They prefer to just shout something and continue moving on, without actually explaining or elaborating why they think as such. Now, we like to face our opposition head on, because that's what freedom of speech stands for. That's what we stand here for. That's what Russia stands against. However, unfortunately, we have usually very short discussions with these individuals. When you ask somebody who supports Putin, who supports Russia, why you support Putin and Russia, you will not hear a proper answer. You will either hear some conspiracy theory about biolabs in Ukraine, or some other conspiracy theory about Zionists ruling the world. Or you will hear the opposite conspiracy theory about Nazis in Ukraine. Which is quite funny, honestly, because once again, Putin has claimed that World War II was started by the Polish, because supposedly they had provoked Hitler. Now that is funny. That's pretty interesting, truly. A man who shills for Hitler himself and his actions, and he claims that he is denazifying another country. Very interesting, very interesting. 14-minute mark in the Tucker Carlson interview, for anyone who's questioning what I'm saying. 14-minute mark in the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin. That's what Putin says. But my friends, we do have to be specific in our critiques of our enemies, of the Russian terrorist regime. And we also need to be unafraid of facing that opposition head on. A lot of the people here in this rally have lost many things with this war. The future, the possibilities, businesses, and worst of all, loved ones. People have lost their loved ones. People have lost their friends, their family. Sometimes people lost their own lives. Sometimes people lost limbs. These losses can never be recovered. However, what we can do is to make sure that that sacrifice was not in vain. To make sure that the war of this Russian terrorist regime ends in Ukraine. It does not go any further. And we can do it. The solution is simplicity itself. Simply provide Ukraine with what Ukraine needs to win. It's a very simple solution. Now, is it easy? No. No war is an easy endeavor. But it is simple. And although the solution is so simple, we still have these nonsensical debates for whether or not it should be done. Why? Why are we even having these debates? The West has promised to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty. Sovereignty that the Russian terrorist regime has also promised to honor. Sovereignty that they have attacked ever since this war began. I guess the Russians don't understand the topic and the concept of sovereignty. That it means that you as a country can make your own choices without having to beg your neighbors to allow you to join an organization they dislike. Ukraine has had a past under Russia, and it was terrible. Millions of people have died. Millions oppressed. Ukrainian people want something different now. They want to be with the West. They want to be with the free world. Not with the enslaved world.
represented by Russia, Ayatollah Iran, and North Korea. These countries are the representative of that authoritarianism that the Ukrainian people are trying to avoid at all costs. That is why it's so important for us to support the Ukrainians in achieving that victory. For the freedom and the quality of life in this country and in all of the free world, it needs to happen. Because if it doesn't, well, if the heroes of Ukraine fall, if Ukraine is unable to resist anymore, then it will be your turn. The turn of every single one of these individuals claiming that this is not their war, claiming that it's expensive, claiming that Ukraine is corrupt. All of these excuses are meaningless when Russian tanks are entering your cities, butchering your people, killing your future. All of it is meaningless. It will no longer matter. It will no longer matter when they come for you. And it will happen if the Ukrainian people fall. Russia will appropriate the Ukrainian resources. Russia will annihilate a large contingent of Ukrainian population, and whoever is left will be enslaved to do their bidding. And then the West will have to deal with a far more powerful Russia, a far more brazen Russia, that does not even care, because they know that the West will not react. Then this example of a village in Estonia will come to pass for sure. And the Suwalki gap between Belarus and Kaliningrad, it will be attacked. That is certainty if Ukraine falls. That is why Ukraine must not fall. That is why the whole free world needs to stand together and speak with conviction about what the solution for this problem is, about what the solution to Russia is, to beat them in Ukraine, to have them pay reparations for the Ukrainian people, and to reform their government. Those are the three unconditional rules that the Ukrainian people demand out of the Russian terrorist regime. That is the only way for us to move into a better future. And honestly, I have spoken with the Russian opposition, and they have accepted these rules. They have accepted these terms. So that is not the problem. The problem, truly, are the Z-zombies, a part of Russian society that shills for Putin. And, of course, it's the many different apologists in the West who claim that they stand for peace. And yet, if you ask them, how will you achieve this peace? They remain speechless. It's happened many times, in fact. Some of these interactions are on video. I remember it very well, my friends. I asked this individual from the hypocritical organization of Stop the War, how will you bring peace to Ukraine? You know what he answered? Peace. I know it doesn't make sense. It really does not. What solution to this war is there? Peace. Well, okay, sure, but how do you stop the Russian regime? Peace. I think everybody in their right mind can see that these individuals don't have solutions. They have no idea what they're talking about. Ask them the most simple question, and they immediately collapse onto themselves. And that should be a very bad sign for anybody who's supporting them, for anybody who's following to their tune, who's dancing to their tune. If somebody speaks about something with very strong conviction, and you ask him a simple question and he collapses, it goes to show that that conviction is meaningless, empty, hollow, ineffectual. But my friends, you don't have to take our words for it. Simply watch a little bit, little snippets of Russian propaganda, you'll see it yourself. The Russians have a popular topic about Great Britain. In fact, the most popular topic they talk about when they mention Great Britain is about how they can nuke them, about how they can drown all of the British islands under a wave of radioactive water. That is how the Russians speak of you. That is the future they envision for the British people. And when it's not about that, they speak about how the evil Anglo-Saxons are attacking them and dominating the world. And speaking about the possibility of creating a virus that is only going to kill the Anglo-Saxons. Does anybody get a sense of deja vu? Of putting all of your problems on the shoulders of one ethnicity? Does anybody get that sense? I think so. I think it's safe to say that ethnic hatred is one of the main tools of Russian propaganda to separate different nations, to separate different peoples, to make sure that everybody only stands for themselves. Because if Russia is facing each European country divided, then yes, Russia can beat them and they will beat them. However, if Russia is facing a coalition of European countries, even two of them, it's already questionable whether they will be able to do anything at all to them. Very questionable indeed. So my friends, don't be surprised when these your unfriendly local isolationists who claim that they represent conservative values, who claim that they represent you, start shilling for Russia. When they start saying that this is not your war, that your taxes are better put into something else. Oh, but we have a homeless problem. This is my personal favorite. You cannot provide weapons to Ukraine because there are homeless in the West. Well, of course, I think it makes sense. Just give those shells to the homeless. They're gonna find better need of them. Give bullets to the homeless. And fight the jets to the homeless. And if they instead try to convince you that no, we should not invest in our military because we have homeless, you can already see you're speaking to a Russian agent. Because when a country is directly attacking other countries around it and trying to convince all the other countries in the general vicinity, oh no, you know, don't invest in your military, it's bad, it's just not good for peace, is it? It's ingenious, truly, if the Russians can convince the Europeans to not arm themselves, to not be prepared for an invasion in the future. And then they can just simply waltz their way to their capitals. It's ingenious. And guess what happens with all of these peaceniks, with all of these not our war individuals, when the Russians will get to their capitals? They get a military boot in their face and they are told what to do. All of these conversations about freedom collapse when authoritarianism takes over, when Russia takes over. This is why it's so rich that Hungary in particular has their Orban, always trash-talking Ukraine, always making up lies about the Ukrainian people, always claiming that this war will be sorted out if only we stop helping the Ukrainians, the people who are defending themselves, the people who need those weapons to survive, to fight back against the Russian terrorist regime. It's funny to hear Orban say that, and these supposed Hungarian conservatives supporting him. Because these same conservatives could not speak a word when the Soviet Union was ruling Hungary. When the Soviet tanks would go through any person who would go to protest against them. My friends, peaceful protests only work if you live in a country that has some level of freedom. If your country is completely authoritarian, you will find that bullets work better than peaceful protesters. You will find that flags and flyers do not stop those bullets and those shells when they're flying in your direction. But we hope you will never have to see that firsthand. We hope that people will realize before it's too late that to help Ukraine, means to help yourself, your own future, your own peace and prosperity. To help Ukraine end this war is what's necessary. And now, my friends, in the name of those people who have been killed, those people who have been murdered, who have been tortured, who have been mutilated, I'd like to invite you to do a minute of silence. Thank you. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Ворогам України тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
You know, my friends, we always have limited time here, but we are grateful for that time because that time allows us to spread this very important information to everybody who's willing to hear it. So we're grateful to this great country of Great Britain for being allowed to speak here, for having the freedom, the same freedom as the citizens of this country have. That is something precious. It does not have every country, especially not in Russia. But my friends, to use this little time we have left to mention a little situation that has happened a while ago. I'm sure you'll find it a curious situation. An individual who I know has been sending me videos of this guy who makes videos about the war in Ukraine. And honestly, it took me one look to realize that this guy was not for the Ukrainian cause. Almost every single one of his videos would have a clickbait title like, "The front is collapsing, the Ukrainians in full retreat, everything is lost." Yeah, that's not somebody who supports Ukraine. Somebody who's not even unbiased. That's somebody clearly biased for the Russian side, because as we all know, there's no big movement on the front line right now. Very little movement. You know, Avdiivka was the biggest loss the Ukrainians have had, and that was completely because Ukraine did not get the shells that we needed. But less of that. So I decided to give him an example of something that this supposedly pro-Ukrainian YouTuber was saying. There was an interview where he was speaking with this American guy who supposedly, according to him, went to Ukraine as a volunteer and who left the volunteers of Ukraine because he was claiming that they were evil Nazis. Now, his justification for why they were Nazis was hilarious. He claimed that every morning Ukrainians get up and they say, "Glory to the Nazis, Slava Nazi." Because this individual is an idiot. He does not understand that the Ukrainians were saying Slava Nazi ye, nation, not Nazi. Now the question rises, did this supposedly pro-Ukrainian YouTuber confront him? Did he stop him? No, he joined in. And he too started trash talking these supposed Ukrainian Nazis. Oh, they're so evil. They're saying every morning, Slava Nazi, glory to the Nazis. My friends, this is idiotic. This is the lowest grade level of propaganda. The stupidest thing anybody could believe in. And it's based completely on ignorance. All it would take is a 1-minute conversation with any Ukrainian for them to explain you that it's not glory to the Nazis, it's glory to the nation. Language barrier, it can be difficult to overcome sometimes. And honestly, I don't mind it at all when people ask me these questions, because that's exactly what we are here for. To answer these questions, to show people that these misconceptions spread by the Russian terrorist regime are lies. And we are ready to explain why. So when people ask me, hey man, is that Slava, glory to the Nazis? I don't mind it, I really don't. People aren't bound to know Ukrainian. People are not forced to learn Ukrainian, unlike Russia, where they are forced to learn Russian, to speak Russian. But people should have the basic decorum and curiosity to ask. If you think something, if you think bad things about the Ukrainians, why not ask them? Ask them what's the reality. Now you might disagree in the end, but ask, speak, converse. Don't just blindly start following the Russian terrorist regime's propaganda. I hope that this was a useful bit of information, my friends. It's a personal experience I've had. I hope that it will be informative in some regards, because these misconceptions sometimes happen, and we need to be able to fix these misconceptions and to show the world that Ukraine is the country that is on the right side of history, on the side of history that stands for a better future, a freer future, a future of peace and nuclear demilitarization, and not a future of genocide and nuclear saber rattling like that the Russian terrorist regime wants to push for. Not like that. Never like that. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава, слава, слава!
Ворогам України тричі!
Смерть, смерть, смерть!
And now, my friends, we will end this rally same way as we started it, with the Ukrainian